Hi, everyone. Welcome to day 3 of Garlic Week, the first week that is part of our variety showcase and Winter Vegetable Sagra for the winter of 2020-2021. To find out more details about what's happening every week, you can go to culinarybreedingnetwork.com or eatwintervegetables.com and look under upcoming events, and you can find the whole schedule. We're updating it as we confirm speakers and what they're going to be talking about. Today, I am very excited to have Linda McLean with us, who is the Director and Outreach Coordinator for the Washington State University Colville Reservation Extension Program. It's the only tribally funded unit in the WSU system, and she's going to talk to us about a really great program that does feature garlic. So we're focusing on different aspects of garlic, as you might be able to tell as you see the schedule and you have been tuning in. I want to remind you that if you have not been able to tune in and do want to see these, you can go to the YouTube site and watch them. They have been recorded. So we had Phil Simon, garlic breeder on Monday, and garlic breeder Avram Drucker yesterday. Both of those are up on YouTube right now, so you can go back in and watch them. Today, if you're watching on YouTube, and there is a chat on the right-hand side of your computer screen or your phone screen, and you can chat in your questions that you have for Linda. There's going to be about a 7-minute video that we're going to watch that she pre-recorded explaining the project that focuses on Inchelium Red Garlic. And then we will have some questions and Q&A with her. So it's your opportunity to ask your questions that you have about this. I'm going to hand it over to Abba, who's going to show the video right now, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
White, Haskell Quest, Snina Linda McLean Eastqueast. Hello and good morning. My name is Linda McLean, and I am the Director and Outreach Educator for the WSU Colville Reservation Extension Program. Our office is located in Nespelam, Washington, on the Colville Indian Reservation in north central Washington State. We are the only tribally funded MOA unit within the WSU land-grant university system. What that means is there are 39 county extension programs and 1 tribal extension program within the WSU land-grant university system. What I am joining you today to talk about is our Inchelium Red Garlic project. Our Inchelium Red Garlic project is part of our food sovereignty, food security work. In extension, we provide outreach education in the areas of agriculture, natural resources, family and consumer sciences, and 4-H positive youth development. Gardening and food sovereignty fall under agriculture. So in a normal year, we would host garden workshops in the spring and help people learn how to grow gardens, whether it be container gardens, raised beds, or conventional gardens, and grow gardens throughout the summer for summertime harvest. Well, this year was not a normal year. We had COVID, and COVID shut everything down in March. We were not able to have any face-to-face live workshops. We were not able to have any classes. We were not able to have anybody in our office whatsoever. So we had to get creative with our workshop planning. So again, like I said, normally our workshops happen in the spring and we teach gardening workshops. Well, one of the reasons we do teach garden and food sovereignty is we are located in a food desert. A food desert is designated by USDA, and it means that in a rural setting, people have to travel 10 or more miles just to access safe, healthy, affordable food. This is not healthy for anybody. We need to have better food access to help prevent some of those health issues that unhealthy food can cause, such as obesity, diabetes, heart disease, etc. So, with that being said, we focus on food sovereignty and food security and food access. So, one of the things we have is a grant through Native American Agricultural Fund. They had a food sovereignty grant and we applied for it and did receive it. And our title of our grant was called Healthy Foods for Healthy Generations. This grant is designed to connect youth with elders to help make sure that they pass on that information and it doesn't get lost with the elders. Also to help transfer knowledge maybe from technology from the youth to the elders if there's some new technology that they might have to share as far as food access and food security. So, how do we teach food access or food security garden workshops without being able to do it face to face? Well, we came up with a plan to do a drive-through workshop, kind of a drive-up workshop, grab and go type of thing. And we decided to focus on fall gardening. We had missed our window in the spring, so we decided to focus on fall. And what is a great product that grows in the fall? Garlic. You plant it in October and you leave it in the ground, it overwinters, and you harvest the following summer, maybe June, July, August, depending on the variety you grow and the location that you're growing it in. So that helped us focus our garden project. And then we decided to focus on the variety of Inchelium Red, well, basically because it originated on the Colville Reservation. Inchelium Red gets its name from the community that it was founded in, Inchelium. Inchelium is located on the eastern border of the Colville Reservation along the Columbia River. So Inchelium Red Garlic, interestingly enough, is not actually red, but it does get its name from the red streaking that happens as it ages and dries. It starts to get a little more red or purple as it dries. So we decided to focus our workshops on helping people learn how to grow Inchelium Red Garlic. It is the oldest strain grown in North America. It is a soft neck variety and it's really good for roasting. It's got a good mild flavor, it's not too strong, and it lends itself really well to roasting. And a lot of times the soft neck varieties are the ones that people braid, and those look nice as well. So for our garden workshops, we generated a short little survey. We provided that to our participants. We had them drive up to our parking lot. They took the survey. We gave them a bulb of garlic along with several handouts on how to grow it and how to prepare it, how to harvest it, how to maintain it, and then some handouts also on the health benefits of garlic, because there are a lot of health benefits to eating garlic. So that's a good thing too. Nothing hurts growing healthy food. So the first one we held was on October 29th, and that was in Nespelem. We were actually able to hand out 69 individual bulbs of garlic that day. The next one we did was on November 3rd, and we actually hosted that along with our partners, Lake Roosevelt Health Clinic, and we partnered with them to hand out 79 bulbs that day. So we handed out a lot of garlic. Let's see, that was approximately 40 pounds of garlic that we handed out. And so hopefully everybody takes it home and plants it. We were able to give them a quick overview of how to plant it, how to prep it for winter, and then hopefully they'll follow the instructions in their handouts and be able to maintain their gardens for this next year. This project was very well received. It garnered a lot of information from the first time we put information out about it to even afterwards. We actually mailed out 30 bulbs to different people that couldn't be there on the day, or they just lived far enough away they couldn't drive to the workshop. So that is the Inchelium Garlic project.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Linda. You can turn on your video if you want. I am really excited about this. And as we talked about before we started, hi. Garlic is so exciting for so many people, I think, I think it's a really great, in addition to it having cultural significance, obviously, it's a really great thing to grow. I think when you're not used to gardening, I feel like it grows really well here. And for me, of all the things that I grow, garlic is the most satisfying. There's something about putting this little, clove in the ground and not knowing what's happening down there. And it's so magical. And then being able to pull it out, and you've got a whole clove of garlic from that. I mean, a whole bulb of garlic is really exciting, I think. And I was wondering, is there with this project, is there a way that people communicate with one another, like during it or afterward? Like, I wondered if like on social media or anything, people post about it, or is there some way that you guys in that project track like how successful it was or how much people enjoyed it?
Right. So I have had people share their pictures on Facebook. I encouraged everybody to go home and plant their garlic and then share their pictures on Facebook so we could see their plots, because it was really a drive-in workshop. So we didn't get that personal interaction that we normally do. So several people did go home and they did post their pictures on Facebook. People shared and said, oh, I shared with my auntie, or I gave my cousin some of the cloves and they planted it as well. And then just messages back and forth to me. So we do plan on keeping in contact. The survey that we had people do was really a pre-survey to find out, engage their gardening experience, their familiarity with garlic, that type of thing, and the knowledge of Inchelium Red, because a lot of people were not even aware of the Inchelium Red variety. And so that was really a pre-post, a pre-test, I guess I should say. And then we'll follow up later this next year after they've grown their garlic and hopefully see how well it produced in the springtime. And then in the summertime, also follow up with them and see if they harvested any, how much they harvested, what they did with the garlic. So yes, we want to keep in contact with everybody and see how they're progressing, because really the idea is to help people learn how to grow and produce food.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of questions that have to do with that. Actually, I was thinking, like, are there traditional ways, like you talked about, it's a soft neck, so it doesn't make a scape, so they don't use the scape. It's like a soft neck, which I love because I really love garlic braids. And you said it was a mild flavor. Is there like a traditional way that it was used by indigenous people? Like, was it paired with meat? Do you guys have those records and know like how the garlic had been used in the past?
I am not familiar with that, and I'm working with our history and culture department on that. So hopefully we'll find that information out for the future program.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not aware of really how the Colville tribal members had actually utilized the garlic. I just know it was here, and I'm sure they did utilize it, but we are working on that.
Yeah. Well, you can't go wrong with garlic. It's good all different ways.
No.
I know some of these questions might be like, you don't know.
And
Totally fine. We've had, at the beginning of, the week, we had Phil Simon, and there's a lot of questions that were asked that he's like, we just don't know, And one of these, the one that's coming up that I want to ask you that might not be known is, do we know how the Inchelium garlic got here in the first place? Like knowing like originally that garlic came from, Central Asia, and then it's traveled around the world. Is there a documentation of that? Like knowing how it got to be in North America in the first place?
As to my knowledge, there is not. It was actually here when settlers arrived in the 1700s. And there are fields of wild garlic that grow around the state. I do realize that. But as far as actual documentation of the Inchelium Red in the Inchelium community, all we've been able to locate is that it was here back in the 1700s before European settlers ever arrived. So we're feeling like it is a native of the Pacific Northwest. I don't have any other information on that.
That's great.
It's really exciting.
It is very exciting. We talked about this a little bit beforehand, but like this is the first of these culturally important crops or vegetables that are going to be grown in this project, but maybe there'll be others to come. And I guess are there others that you have in mind that you wanted to include in this project that are important to the indigenous community? And when you talked about how, of course, a lot of the foods were wild foods and not cultivated. So, and then in that same vein, like what are the other regionally important indigenous foods, plants and foods that are consumed at the Colville Reservation?
There are a lot of cultural and medicinal plants that the tribal members utilize even still today, but a lot of them do not lend themselves to domestication, like growing in your own backyard garden. There have been trials on growing camas bulbs. Our tribal forestry department has a greenhouse, and they actually did plant some seeds and tried to cultivate some camas, and it did take off a little bit. I know there's been studies and research on huckleberries and growing them in backyard gardens. They don't lend themselves well either because they need a certain elevation and a certain acidity to make them grow and flourish. Our project is just getting started. It was with this grant with Native American Agricultural Fund, and this is actually the first garden project with that grant. Well, actually it's the second project with that grant. The first one was a greens program that we did in August, but that was not culturally, a cultural plant. This is more of a cultural and native plant. So part of the survey that we gave to people for this was to find out what their interests were, engage how much interest they would have in learning about other plants and what they might be. And so we haven't calculated all of those yet, but a lot of people were interested in, of course, the medicinal herbs, the teas and that type of thing. And those do lend themselves to growing in gardens. At our office in Nespelem, Washington, we have what we call a small demonstration garden that we put in, and we just grow small amounts of different things. So the hope is that we'll be able to plant some things and have on display and demonstrate to people how they can actually grow and propagate those plants. Cool. At this time, I'm not, like I said, this is the first of the program. Mm-hmm. So it's just getting started. So I'm really not sure where our direction is going as far as what other plants we will be working with.
Well, I think the garlic is a great start. You talked about, and I wonder, like as we are going through and talking about the history of garlic, and then later on this week, we're going to have someone talk about medicinal properties and then also like the folk medicine part of it. So many cultures in the past have started consuming garlic, I think initially because it was thought of as medicine and good for us and protective. And it has a lot of different, reasons beyond just tasting good. Do you know in the indigenous community, was that the Do you know if that was the case for them, or more, more than just being enhancing flavor or just appreciating that flavor? Was it also considered like medicine or protection?
Yeah, I am not really aware of that. That's not my area of expertise. I would guess that they used it for some medicinal purposes just because of the natural health benefits that we know exist in garlic, but I don't have any documentation that states that.
Mhm. Great. Okay, I'm going to read off a couple of the other questions that said, someone asked, how has garlic been, do you know how garlic has been handed down from one generation to the next, like in the past? Maybe now that's not being done as much, but do you have any sense of how that happened?
I do not have a sense of that happens. And my guess is it has not been handed down, because here's one example. I had an elderly lady that came to the workshop in Nespelem, and she said, okay, give me the scoop. I've lived in Inchelium all my life and I have never heard of Inchelium Red Garlic. So somehow along the way it got lost or the knowledge was misplaced. And I don't know where along the way that happened, but it's interesting that the interest that we've gotten from this, just by bringing up the Inchelium Red Garlic and talking about it, it has generated a lot of interest locally as well as off reservation. And so there's a definite hunger for this knowledge. And so I'm really excited to be able to help bring that back and reintroduce it to the local community. But my feeling is that the knowledge and information, again, was not handed down. Somewhere along the way, it got lost, as with so many of our cultures and traditions do with our elder population. When the elders pass on, a lot of that knowledge base is gone, and we really need to take advantage of that knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It is always so sad to see that, end. And then the happiness that you're seeing and excitement and people being reconnected to their traditional foods, and the stories that go along with it, that they feel, connected with this plant, that they can then grow themselves and cook themselves and eat with their families and friends. It's so cool.
Well, and that's interestingly enough, that's why we came up with the name of our grant application, Healthy Foods for Healthy Generations. The idea was to get people, food sovereignty, of course, we teach that and help people learn how to grow food. But the idea was to help connect the generations and share that knowledge, share that, whether it be indigenous, culturally relevant or medicinal knowledge. Let's share that and pass on the information, and don't let it die with the elder generation. Mm-hmm. We need to continue those sharings of information so that we can continue on our heritage.
Mm-hmm. Are there any farmers in the area that that do grow it right now? Or, I mean, I've seen this variety, but not that I know of grown by an indigenous farmer that, it may be because it hasn't been on my radar that I haven't been looking. I certainly will now. I wonder if there's anyone that's growing it on any kind of scale there at the Colville Reservation and could, sell it to the community, those that might not have space to grow it, or others outside the community, as something that is traditionally so important and grown by someone in the indigenous community.
There are a handful of individuals that just grow it for their own personal use, but very small handful, probably, like I said, a handful that have mentioned to me when they came to the workshop, oh, I've been growing this for years, or, oh, I've tried it before, but not on a large scale that could market it. We do have this garlic farm, and which is where I sourced some of the garlic that I did get this year for seed, from Fillory Farms in Omak, and that's just across the river from the reservation. But it's a non-native farm, but they grow a lot of different types and varieties of garlic on a larger scale, but it's not a reservation or tribal member. And so a lot of the farming and agriculture that we see on our Colville Reservation is livestock and hay production. We don't have a lot of actual food production on our reservation. And I would like to see that change, because I truly believe in order to be a sovereign nation, you need to actually feed your people. And if we can't feed our people, we can't truly be sovereign. So we've seen that here in the COVID pandemic of food shortages. And I don't ever want to have to see anybody go hungry because they don't know how to access food. And so if we can teach more people how to grow their own food, we will help, give people the health and nutrition that they need to survive.
Yes, yes, agree. And that kind of has, you're talking about some of the challenges and barriers, and someone did ask, what are some of the challenges and barriers that you've encountered in the project that might have to do with land or resource access for indigenous folks who are already marginalized?
Yeah, a lot of the challenge, this project hasn't received a lot of challenges just because it's such a small scale. You don't need a large space to grow a decent amount of garlic. You can grow it in a 5-foot space and have an abundance of garlic. But for tribal members that want to get into agriculture, land is an issue. If they don't already own land, there's a process they have to follow within the tribal system and BIA system on accessing land and land use. So there are rules and regulations that they have to follow. And sometimes that process can be lengthy and very time consuming for our producers. So if they don't already have land, that is a hardship getting into agriculture production, whether it be livestock, hay, or food production. But the good news is on food production, you don't need a large plot of land to grow a lot of food. I mean, there's square foot gardening. You can grow a large amount of food in just 1 square foot, so, and you can go vertical. You can grow an abundance of food in a small space. If I've taught container gardening because a lot of our clients reside in housing developments, HUD housing developments, and they don't have land associated with that property. Or maybe it's a person that lives in an apartment or lives in town, but everybody has a front porch or an entryway and they can grow a large container, and you can grow a lot of salad greens in a container, or carrots or radishes or a tomato or a couple of peppers. So you just have to get creative with how you want to grow food. And so let's see, another challenge is expense. Some people just can't afford to get into the infrastructure. So when you're talking large scale farming, you're talking equipment and maybe greenhouses or hoop houses, infrastructure that needs to be developed. And that can be a hardship for a lot of people, not only native, but anybody that wants to get involved in agriculture. So land and infrastructure are the 2 largest challenges that I see for anybody that wants to get involved in ag.
Yes.
There are programs out there that can assist though, whether it be NRCS or FSA, you can apply for low interest loans to help you get started, cost share programs through the NRCS to help you get hoop houses or greenhouses to help you get established. So there are opportunities out there, but you really have to work with whether it be extension or conservation districts or your USDA service centers.
Well, this is great. I really appreciate you coming here and talking about this project. I think it's so exciting, and you really seem very invigorated about it, and in spreading the excitement about growing your own food and culturally significant food and connecting people with that. Are there any other projects that you guys have going on right now with their extension program that you want to mention here to people?
Sure. I briefly touched on it before. I talked about the garden greens, the salad greens. We connected earlier this summer. Again, we had to try to figure out how we're going to help people learn how to grow their own food. So through the Food Hub with WSU, a meeting we connected with Organic Seed Alliance, and we came up with a plan to develop a seed blanket or milpa seed blanket. And what it is a mixture of greens seeds, so mustard, spinach, orac, amaranth, calendula. There were about 9 different seed varieties in there. Mix that up with a natural fertilizer, and then sow that into your garden or your container. We made 2 mixes, one for a 4x8 garden bed. It could be raised or in the ground, and one for an 18-inch container. And they sowed the seed mix into that container or into their bed and grew a variety of salad greens. And the idea was to we did that in August. And again, to try to get people to grow quick food. And you talk about fast food. I planted it, my example, I planted it on August 18th, and on August 21st, I had sprouts. It had sprouted that quickly, and it just really grew and was prolific. I harvested my first salad 29 days later. So within 29 days, I was harvesting a salad, and we could use that for smoothies or salads. So that was a really good project. And we had a lot of people participate in that. Let's see, there were over 70 people that came. Again, that was a drive-through event. And they came through and did the similar process, did a survey, got their seed mix, and then went home and planted. We were also able to, through the grant, provide the soil. If they had they wanted to do a container, we were able to provide the container and the soil mix as well. Because you can't be successful if you're just putting just garden dirt in a container. It gets too compacted and solid. So we actually provided them with a lightweight soil mix to put in their container. So that was successful. And we have one coming up that's associated with this Native American Ag Fund grant again, and it's freezer meals. And it's actually coming up on December 10th, and we're going to do a Zoom class with people that have pre-registered, and we're going to teach them how to actually prepare meals, cook once and cook once for a week type of thing. So they're going to actually get 4 pounds of ground beef and learn how to cook that up and then break it up into 4 different recipes that they can either serve one that night and then put 3 in the freezer, or put them all in the freezer and pull out for later for a quick dinner to get on the table for their family. That's actually going to be taught by our family consumer science educator, Kayla Wells. She teaches food safety and foods preservation through our program, as well as parenting. But for this, she's focusing on the food safety and foods preservation using the freezer. So she does a lot of outreach with foods preservation as far as canning as well. So canning and freezing foods. So they've been very popular. We've done hands-on canning classes, teaching how to pickle, how to make salsa, sauerkraut, and then meats and fish is always a very popular workshop.
That is so great. I love this. I love this whole system of like empowering people to grow their food and like prepare food. This is actually to bring it back to like the Sagra that we've done in the past when it was in person. I mean, the whole idea was, let's take these winter vegetables that farmers grow, but are kind of underappreciated. A lot of times when people will go to the grocery store during the winter time because they want to eat the things that they can get, tomatoes and lettuce and all these things that they maybe buy directly from a farmer and at the height of this, that part of this growing season, but the winter foods, they're not so comfortable eating. So it's trying to get them excited about that and cooking at home, and comfortable, because thinking of things that have been lost from generation to generation, like cooking has, and people don't know what to do with certain things. And I mean, people like to think that because of my job, do a lot of canning and preserving. I'm like, no, my preserving is really freezing, because it's the easiest way. I can make a lot of food, but I just like to freeze it rather than can. So, it's just really fantastic. And because that's what we're all up against, right? We're all working like crazy. We have the kids, we got to do all the things. And it's hard to find that time for good, wholesome meals. And so to empower people and teach them how to do this, to plan ahead a little bit and have those things ready so it makes our lives a little easier, is really fantastic. And they can use that garlic with that ground beef.
Yes. Yep. Well, it's so important to teach cooking because again, that's a lost art. And we do encourage that a lot through our program. We focus on the nutrition aspect, but the idea is teaching people how to cook the basics. It doesn't take, last year we actually did Instapot recipes because Instapots have become so popular. We actually did we actually did 2 classes on Instapot cooking, teaching people how you can quickly get a meal on the table for a family of, I believe it was 4 or 6 in 20 minutes. We had chicken and rice and a vegetable all cooked in an Instapot. And we showed, just did classes on that, just showing people that this is one way that you can quickly cook something healthy and nutritious for your family. It doesn't always have to be something from the deli or the hot case at the mini mart. Mm-hmm. But we've done workshops before. A lot of our clientele are on the commodities program. So we get the USDA food boxes. So a lot of times there's different foods in there that maybe we aren't familiar with. So we've done classes on how can you utilize cauliflower? What's the best way, different ways to cook cauliflower and use it in your foods, whether it be a soup or baking it, putting cheese on it, whatever, just different varieties of lessons. We've put bulletin boards up on, the strawberry month. Here's a bunch of recipes on strawberries, and here's different ways you can utilize strawberries. So the idea is just to get people exposed to different foods. This year, a bunch of leeks were provided, with a lot of the COVID, different people were donating things, and leeks were donated. Well, that made a wonderful soup. I mean, it's just things people aren't used to. Artichokes, just things that people aren't used to. So if we can expose people, it's like kids, you give them a taste of vegetables through the SNAP Ed program in schools. You give them tastes of vegetables because maybe they've never tasted an orange pepper. They've never seen an orange pepper. And they think, oh, well, this is really pretty good. Or they've never actually tried an artichoke. They just think they don't like it. Well, if you've never tasted it, you don't know. So a lot of our adults are the same way. Just because, as I mentioned in the video, we're in a food desert. So our grocery stores on the reservation consist of tribal grocery stores, which is a good thing. We have the grocery stores, but they're limited on what they can get in because of, things go bad. The perishables are limited. So like any grocery store, they base it on, the previous week's or month's sales. So maybe they only order in a limited amount of fresh vegetables because they don't want to waste it. So a lot of times our clients don't have access to a variety of fresh fruits and vegetables. We don't have farmers markets on the reservation. We do have them off reservation, but there aren't any farmers markets within the boundaries of the reservation. And that's where a lot of people like to go to get fresh vegetables. That was one of the questions on our survey is where do you access your fresh vegetables and fruits? And a lot of people, grocery stores, basically it. And if they do go to the farmers markets, they did say that, but yeah, there's just an opportunity here for people to try different vegetables and fruits and find out, hey, this really is a tasty option for me, especially with the high prevalence of heart disease and diabetes in Native communities. It's really important for us to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables to get back to that more natural diet that our body is actually needing, instead of the European fast foods, high fat, high sodium content.
Yeah.
So let's get back to more healthy eating for our health. It's all good.
I love it. It's great. We got another question that came in that asked that do you work with the Food Hero program?
I have never heard of the Food Hero program.
I haven't either. This was from
What is it?
Who is, I don't know, actually. This is Heidi, who works in the Small Farms program at Oregon State University. So you might want to look it up. And ABBA it's like www.foodhero.org. So maybe check that out. She didn't know anything else about that, but well.
Yeah, we do, there's food banks in the local area. So on our demonstration garden over the last 3 years, we've grown food. And what we had was, we had our classes there. So the first year we developed it, we had classes there. And so when we built the beds, we had our class participants come and learn how to build raised bed gardens. So our clientele actually built the garden. So they built the raised beds, they planted the beds, and they were more than welcome to come in and harvest, but most people didn't. And so over the last few years, it's kind of become more of us planting things, and then we just make it available to people. If green beans are ripe, we put out a notice through the tribal broadcast email system that says, hey, green beans are ripe, come pick as much as you want. And sometimes people come over and, pick a little bit for their lunch, or they pick some little cherry tomatoes and a cucumber maybe for their lunch, or, some greens for their salads. And then we also, if there's an abundance, we actually donate that to our food distribution program, which is like a food bank. So, they get second harvest in there. So we bag up onions and potatoes and green beans, cherry tomatoes, whatever we have, zucchini, and take it over there. And it's just put on the table, available to anybody that wants to take and utilize it. So we're all about giving back to the community because it's all for people. Food expense should not, be a deterrent for eating healthy.
Mhm. Great.
There are programs in the area that do gleaning and donate to food banks. We have not been involved in that, but there are programs around that do that.
Well, this has been great, Linda. Thank you so much. You have a really wonderful program that you're running over there, and it's been really great to hear about so many of the different things that you guys are doing over there, and to hear about the garlic has been really cool as part of Garlic Week. And just we talked about it beforehand, but to let people that are listening know that we will have a week in February 8th through the 12th, which will be Indigenous Winter Foods, to learn more about what folks were eating here, what were Indigenous people eating in North America before we started growing all these cultivated vegetables that are the other parts of this Winter Sagra that we're talking about. But we really want to think about what was here before that. And maybe we'll have Linda back for that. And we have some other speakers that we're lining up right now. And I just want to say that I really appreciate your time and sharing about the cool project that you have going on over there in Colville.
Well, thank you. This has really been fun. It's a fun project, and it's really got people excited about growing gardens and growing food and the garlic in general, because so many people have just never ever grown garlic. They haven't thought about it. It seems like by the time summer gets here, August and September, everybody's tired of gardening, or they're going to put their garden to bed. And basically because it's so cold up here, we can get snow in September. And so sometimes it freezes in September, but the prime time to plant garlic is October. So a lot of people have never, ever even thought of growing garlic or planting any type of fall garden. So it's a new concept for a lot of folks around here. And I'm really excited about it. And I'm really excited about the potential that it has, because really, we talked about it before that, local farmers or producers are not growing food and garlic for sale in markets or stores or restaurants even. But I would love to be able to see a native plant grown by native people sold commercially, whether it be to restaurateurs or farmers markets. I think it would just be a wonderful opportunity. And it's a good economic development opportunity for the people of the Colville Indian Reservation, because it can be native foods grown by native people on native lands. So I think it's a really good opportunity, but it really is in its infancy. So more to come in the future, I'm hoping.
That would be so great, Linda. I love that idea. If there's anything that we can do at the OSU and or WSU to help make that happen in the programs that we run over here, I would love to help with that and be a collaborator with you. Okay, so
thank you. Definitely keep you in mind.
Thanks. This is going to be recorded. It is being recorded right now. It'll be up on YouTube so people can watch it later. And thanks so much for participating in Garlic Week.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. It's been